Okay, BaubleRob, this is Kate Rhodes again. I'm still sick. I'm very sorry about how sick I am. Point is, I got my 10 most disappointing movies of 2017. I hope that anyone can understand me and that I will be more coherent than my last. Still sick. Never gonna not be sick. This is my life now. Okay. Battle of the Sexes, the story of Billie Jean King. Should I play the damn clips? The problem is they're all anamorphic in these long strips. I don't like having to cut those black boxes off. Maybe I'll cut to the clips and just leave the black boxes.
So, Billie Jean, what do you want?
Now, don't get me wrong, I love women, in the bedroom and in the kitchen.
Anyhow, my problem with this movie, I liked Steve Carell in this movie. He was probably my favorite part. I love a movie about feminism and, like, staking a claim for women tennis players, and everything about that was cool. Sarah Silverman was really good. But the gayness wasn't doing it, man. It just kind of sucked. Billie Jean King, it's all true that, like, the hairstylist was, like, her first lover or girlfriend. And that she was married. But it's another queer story where I'm like, man, they don't even get to be gay hardly. It's like just all this running around, touching each other's hair, you know? I just was disappointed by it. And I thought that the scenes where they're playing tennis could have been shot better. Okay, The Shape of Water, where Sally Hawkins, who I really like, and the gay neighbor guy, who I really like, that actor. They were great, but man, another one where it's like, this movie, I sound like a pervert and I know that, but this movie was supposed to be about a lady having sex with a fish monster. You barely see any of it. You barely see, you don't even, she explains how the fish monster has a dick, but you don't see the dick. This is directed by the guy that did The Lobster that I loved. It was like the surrealist movie where people are turned into animals if they're not married and or not in a relationship. And that movie was really weird, and all the performances were like in this weird flat affect. All the dialogue was really stilted. This movie was the same way, but it didn't have as strong of a story. The story's basically Colin Farrell is a surgeon, a heart surgeon. He kills this guy, and the guy had a kid, an accident in surgery, maybe because he was drinking. And the son of the kid, Colin Farrell becomes friends with the son of the kid, is trying to give him watches, and he feels guilty, obviously. And then the kid's trying to hook him up with his mom, who's played by Alicia Silverstone, and that's super weird. And then the guy's like, no, dude, I'm married with kids. And then the kid is like, well, check it out. You're cursed, dude. You gotta kill a member of your family or your whole family's gonna die. Like, through magic. It's another, surrealist thing. It's not that the kid necessarily I didn't interpret it as the kid is making it happen, but it's like some weird magic retribution. But you don't care about any of the characters. They're all horrible. They're all trying, even Nicole Kidman, the wife, is trying to bargain with Colin Farrell to save her life, that they can just have another kid. And that felt unbelievable to me. So, I don't know, the whole thing was kind of gross to watch and torture porny, except I didn't care about any of the characters, so I didn't care that much about seeing them suffer. Mother! Talk about torture porn. Anyhow, what happens is Jennifer Lawrence is a young wife of this writer guy who hasn't written in a long time. She's trying to write. They're in this house. She's redoing the house. Fucking Michelle Pfeiffer, who I love, and Ed Harris show up. Turns out they're fans of this guy. It gives him this jazz to do his writing. He writes a book, and then holy shit, everything goes crazy. Motherfucking Kristen Wiig plays the writing agent lady. She's executing people. Armies coming in. Crowds are coming into the house. It's like a dream. Just every time she goes in another room, it's crazy. But people are like, oh, it's about global warming. And I'm like, that's kind of a stretch. Seems to me it's about fucking Darren Aronofsky sucking his own dick. And I really liked Requiem for a Dream and Pi, but now I'm looking back and I'm like, did I only like those because I was like a young weird art kid? And if I watched them now, I haven't seen them in a long time. If I watched them now, would I be like, The Square? I was so excited for this movie. It's by the Swedish dude that directed Force Majeure. And this movie is about the art world, making fun of the art world, which is like, I've been waiting for that. But it kind of focused too much on this so it focused on this Swedish museum curator. At the beginning of the movie, he kind of is trying to be good Samaritan to help this woman, but then it turns out she's doing a scam to steal all his shit. He gets his phone stolen, gets wrapped up in this whole thing where he's trying to find his phone, like fucks up the life of this kid who's living in like a housing project. All this stuff. The guy's a douchebag, and like, yeah, he's a fucking douchebag driving his damn Tesla and being a piece of shit. But I wanted a broader indictment of the art world. The art world's just a backdrop to this guy's shitty story. The curator guy. I wanted it to, and I mean, there were things that were kind of critiquing the art world in a funny way. There's a long scene where a performance artist is supposed to be like a gorilla or something at this fancy like donors dinner, and he's like really causing fucking drama, and it's funny because if you've ever been to a fancy art event, people are buttoned up, you know, nobody wants to seem like, you know, they've ever, you know, farted in their life. So for some gorilla guy to be coming, like, pulling people's hair and beating people up and, like, people having to get all ruffled and stuff, is really, like, but, you know, the people are paying to have that experience. They want to be fucked up. I don't know. I felt like there were scenes that were really good. It was a very well shot movie, but I just didn't care about this damn curator. I want to see more about where it's, like, hard-hitting critique of the art world and the fucking rich motherfuckers that run that shit. Okay, here I go. A lot of these are like the top most critically acclaimed movies of the year. 3 Billboards. Frances McDormand was awesome. I love her in every movie she's in. But, man, it's a murder mystery. You never find out who the fucking killer is, really. You know? And it just seems like there's all these set pieces where there's like a fight and a fire and like all these things, and then the story is just kind of mishmash, you know, going from one set piece event to the next, and it doesn't feel like it ever gets anywhere. But that's how I felt about it. There's also like Sam Rockwell's character, who's like a shitty cop guy, and he's racist. And he's saying fucked up things, and you're hearing that he was, like, basically torturing black people in this town. And he never really gets comeuppance for it. Like, he's supposedly kind of redeemed at the end. He loses his job. And, I mean, it's a story about people that aren't really good or bad. They're all kind of fucked up. But it just never really got anywhere for me, and I hate Woody Harrelson. Okay, Beguiled with Nicole Kidman. I actually didn't have that high expectations for this, but for a movie where every single person in the movie is a woman except for Colin Farrell, who's like a deserting soldier in the Civil War on the Union side, going and like trying to, you know, be hooked up with amnesty or whatever from this house full of women that are on the Confederate side. I mean, they're just civilians, but doesn't fucking pass the Bechdel test, because every time 2 women are talking to each other, they're talking about fucking Colin Farrell, and it's just another just hard movie to get through. Not a lot of redeeming qualities, and I don't know, man. I didn't have high expectations, and I still was disappointed, so that was not a good one. And Nicole Kidman, man, what's her deal? Oh my god, this was my actual biggest disappointment of the year. I don't know why I didn't put this... Oh, I do know why I didn't put it at number 1. Alexander Payne. One of my favorite directors, Election, Citizen Ruth, Sideways, which I didn't love that much, About Schmidt, which I loved. All these movies in Omaha, Nebraska. Love Alexander Payne, made such a bad movie. Downsizing. First off, I went on a road trip with my brother over the summer where we invented this concept of tiny 5-inch people having to live amongst regular people and all this whole thing. I mean, the borrowers did it for sure. Okay, but I was so into the concept of this movie that you can shrink yourself. And like Matt Damon, I wasn't excited about really, but man, he really blew it. Matt Damon is basically, it's just basically a manic pixie dream girl story where like boring white guy's sad and like, you know, and then he meets a woman of color who like spices up his life, and he kind of is like, becomes like a white savior for this like population of people that are like the kind of service workers of the tiny people world, and it just had a lot of potential to be such a good movie. I loved the concept. I actually loved like the first 20 minutes or whatever. But then it gets into this character. But then there comes this character played by Hong Chow, who is supposed to be like a Vietnamese protester dissident. And Matt Damon basically like runs into her by accident. And I don't know. What really did it for me was there's a part, and she's got this accent that's like, it just feels like it's there for the white audience to laugh at. Because the theater I was in, that's what was happening. And like, there's a part where Matt Damon's kind of trying to get out of helping her. So Christoph Waltz, who's like this rich guy, is going to take him to Norway or something. And they're like telling the woman, hey, we gotta take him to Norway, so you gotta just chill. He's not gonna help you for a while. She's like, oh, I'm gonna come to Norway. And she goes through this whole thing, how she was supposed to go because she was invited there, but she couldn't go. I forget why. And she's crying, saying that, like, Jesus has set this up so she finally can go, and she's crying. And it, to me, was really sad. The whole audience is laughing, uproarious laughter at like, oh, this dumb Vietnamese woman with an accent. I mean, that's how it felt to me. And I was like, fuck, dude, I fucking got in here with my special pass. I'm out. I'm done. And I walked out of the fucking movie. That's the only one I walked out of. And I saw some shitty movies, man. I saw fucking Flatliners. I saw Happy Death Day. I saw some real clunkers. But this one just, I was so disappointed. I was so sad. Okay, Professor Whatever and the Women, about the guy that invented Wonder Woman. I was super excited about this movie. It was going to have queer stuff and bondage. I sound like the biggest pervert in the world. And I was so stoked about it. And it wasn't that bad. Okay, it just was a little too heavy-handed. There's like the trope where the guy coughs and then it's like, you know, a couple scenes later he's dying of, you know, lung cancer. That was like really cliche. Some of the stuff was just too cliche. Some of the characters were a little too, it was just too all over the place. Like, oh, you know, oh, they're in love, and then, oh, they're fighting, and they're kicking people out, you know, and I mean, it's based on a true story, but not really, because, like, it kind of seems like the guy actually was kind of a douchebag. It makes it seem like a queer utopia that they had going on, where it was just a dude, and these two ladies, the ladies are hooking up, it's all good, you know, they're tying up the guy, I'm into it. But in real life, I think it was a little sketchier than that. And the woman that directed it has directed some, like, classic lesbian movies like Debs, which is another, like, campy, it's a pretty campy lesbian spy movie. So she was coming at it with her usual take, but I don't know. It was just another one where I'm like, dude, make it gayer. Make it gayer if it's gonna be a gay movie. You know, we're spending too much time the girl that the couple who are college professors bring in a graduate student, and they both fall in love with her basically, and she falls in love with them, but she's got a fiance, and it just, that part kind of drags on with the fiance. The sex scenes are hot, but there could have been more of them, and I don't know, it just was a little too simple for me, I guess. Okay, this was the worst. I didn't have super high expectations for this movie, but I was excited to see it when it was coming out. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go check that out. It sounds like an interesting father-son story. But it is not a father-son story. It is fucking, again, Ben Stiller's character just like masturbating to the camera the whole movie about how, oh, I wish I didn't work for a nonprofit because everyone I went to college with is super rich now. Even though I have an awesome house and I'm married to Pam from The Office, American version, sorry, BaubleRob. And I have a great life, but oh, I need to go hit on my son's friends who are in college, young women. And he's just like the total, like, privileged, rich in comparison to 99% of the world, taking his whole life for granted. And I get, like, everybody does that. Everybody takes things for granted. Like, that doesn't inherently make it a bad idea for a movie. But it's just, I just am, like, hating this character more and more with every passing second of this movie. And he never gets a retribution. I mean, it's, at the end, it's supposed to be like, oh, he learned that the important thing is that he loves his son and his family and this whole thing, but it just feels like I'm watching the worst human being alive for an hour and a half or however long this movie is. When at no point does the world, like, come up to him and be like, you are being so fucked up right now. And that's all I wanted. I want them to make a sequel, which would be the most satisfying movie, where it's just people being like, do you understand how fucked up you're being, dude? Okay, well, those are my disappointing movies of 2017. I got really geared up. I need to lay back down and go to sleep. Okay, bye.